Welcome, welcome, welcome. That's how you say it, Ari.
Sorry.
This is the turntable on Active FM, where radio has never been better.
Say it again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please.
With some
One more
passion,
time.
the way
With
you
some
say, this week in hip hop history.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Secret line. Anyway, my name is Aristas. This is the turntable where we keep you learned and get you turned, or get you turned and keep you learned, whichever way you want to look at it.
And I'm T Money. You know, we be playing you the tracks, giving you the facts, and today we got another great show coming up. So let's get into this.
So if you guys have been listening to the past 2 weeks, which I know Diren doesn't listen, I mean D-Money doesn't listen, we discussed basically what's beefs and battling in hip-hop. Last week we covered KRS-One versus MC Shen. This week we're going into one of the big ones, arguably one of the biggest and best ones that we had within hip-hop. So what are we doing this week?
Biggest
Aaron?
and best. So we're doing, we know we said Kings of New York, right?
King of New York.
King of New York. I won't say Kings of New York, but you'll understand why I said Kings of New York at the end of it. But
Alrighty then.
right, so it's Jay-Z versus N to the AS, Nas, Nostradamus, Escobar.
SIR. Don't forget spell
Yeah.
it properly.
Nazir Jones.
Yeah,
Jones.
Nasir Jones, yeah. Versus
It's like 17
Sean
middle
Carter.
names in between.
Yeah. Escobar, Nostradamus, however you want to look at it.
Oh, you mean all aliases.
Yeah.
You have to say Jay-Z,
Jay-Z,
Jehovah,
Jigga.
Jigga.
Yeah.
It's like
Jigga.
17 names there. Pick one and
Mr.
run with it.
Carter, the first. Or the second.
Probably the first.
In hip-hop.
Alright. So what are we doing? Getting into how it started.
So I've got a small overview. I know you all two know
Go
those
for it,
things
go
from
for
the
it,
back
go
of
for it.
yours, like the back of your hand. So what I've come to, like, I found out about. So this started after Biggie died. So
No.
Biggie was
It got slightly more direct after Biggie died.
After
Biggie
Biggie
was
died.
the king of New York before them. Do you
Yeah.
disagree? Agree?
No,
okay,
disagree with
okay.
it.
So since he brought the Biggie, what's it called, the Biggie part in it, right? So there was subliminal disses with Nas and with Nas and Biggie.
With Nas, Biggie, and Raekwon.
Yeah.
It was basically Biggie dissing Nas and
And-
Raekwon and them
and then,
responding.
yeah,
but it
and them
was
responding.
subs. It was
It's
never
subs,
really
yeah.
direct.
It was never direct. Yeah. That's why I'm
Yeah.
mentioning.
And it was about the
Yeah.
same thing. It was about the King
King
of New York.
And the only reason I think the only reason you see there was the two famous albums at the same time. Similar, just not same time but similar. It's
Around the
Illmatic,
same time.
Illmatic
Illmatic 94, Ready to Die,
No.
95.
No, Ready to Die. It was
95.
No, it was the same. It was
That's 95.
Illmatic came before.
Yes, 94, and then it was before. 94 is before 95. Hari.
sorry. But I'm saying it was in close proximity.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
Even it was written and it was
Reasonable doubt.
a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, but we'll come to that. Just to touch on it, on it was there was a ongoing what's it called to say, who was the king of New York at the time. Biggie took it because of his commercial success.
And you're right, a big part of it, Biggie dying and them basically claiming the throne after
Yeah.
that played a big role.
Played
in
a,
this
played a,
beef
I did play a big role,
actually started.
but
Okay,
to,
so
to add context, yeah.
then it
it
moves
was-
on a bit.
Yeah.
So
let us do the starting.
it was Nas. It was actually Jay-Z that asked Nas to feature on his song. Was that correct?
That's
Okay.
part. There's like
Yeah, that's
seven
part,
different.
okay.
There's like
So-
but which is true.
Oh, it's just yeah. So yeah.
If you ask them, right, like there's a lot of interviews about this, documentaries, whatever, because like I said, it's one of the biggest beefs, battles in hip hop, arguably one of the best, produced some of the greatest diss
Yeah.
tracks we get. But if you ask either of them, you'll never ever get a straight answer, right? It's always
Yeah.
you always hear the story of it's the competitive nature of hip hop.
and yeah.
And you know, it's just that type of thing. Obviously, people saying that it was going for the King of New York, but neither of them would ever admit it.
Yeah, but you are right. It started it started with the sublums. It started there in '96 when Nas reportedly failed to show up for a recording session with Jay-Z's track "Bring It On his debut album Reasonable Doubt.
It was on Dead Presidents.
But it's Bring It On, and then the album dropped later that year. And in the absence of Nas, right? In the absence of Nas, the producer Ski Beats sampled Nas's line, "The world is yours" on Dead Presidents.
He sampled the line from
What the world is yours?
From the World Is
Yours
Yours. I'm
on
out
Dead-
for Dead
on
Presidents
Dead
to
Presidents.
represent me.
Yeah.
That became the hook of
Yeah.
Jay-Z's song Dead Presidents.
And
yeah, that's also one of the reasons where the
Yeah,
tension came from,
tension
because he wanted
And
Nas to re-record
he wanted
that focus,
Nas to
and he didn't
re-record,
do it.
and then Nas didn't
And
for
he wanted him
for
in
the
the
song.
video, he didn't do it as well.
And then he wanted him for the song Bring It On. He didn't do it, and then you said we spoke about earlier that the two albums they came close proximity, Reasonable Doubt, and then Nas' second album it was written, came out, and the song Message, there was a line that Nas stated, which was, what does Lex with
Lex with the TV sets the minimum.
Yeah.
That was somewhat of a direct shot, actually.
It was a sublime. Although he said no, it was inspired by Jay-Z. It wasn't a shot, but because on the song The Message, he was going
taking
at
shots
everybody,
at big,
taking shots at everybody.
a few people. Yeah.
So that's how he took it.
It was perceived as a shot at Tupac also.
Yeah, and then we played the song Can I Love, right? From what was
It's
it?
still going to
T-Bone.
play. It hasn't played
from
as yet.
no from T-Bone. We
yeah,
played
it's
it in the
already,
start.
yeah.
There is a song called from Jay-Z, Can I Love, and that line where Nas says I was inspired by Jay-Z, right? That his line of Lex with TV sets the minimum, right? That line came from Jay-Z's song Can I Love, where Jay-Z talks about him having
a Lex TV set. Yeah, and it's in his videos and things like that. So people knew he was talking about him when he said that.
So it was just a thing that we.
And you're looking at it now, people look at it now like Jay-Z have Alexis with the TV set and thinking, okay, but he's like, and Nas is saying that's the minimum. They thinking, okay, but Jay-Z one of the most successful, richest people in hip-hop, but Nas is saying what he got is the minimum. At the time, that was not the case.
Yeah.
Reasonable Doubt was not a successful album.
Yes.
It became successful after Jay blew up, and then people went back to that
Yes,
album
yes,
and
yes.
basically bought that album to make it go platinum and things. But at the time, Nas was way more successful than Jay. So he was saying, others like, hey, that's the minimum to have,
Yeah.
basically.
Then in '97 again, Jay-Z sampled Nas again on a Rap Game or Crack Game, right? It was a friendly no. It wasn't. It was a friendly shot, but it went the other way because they took it as beef against each other. So that's how people thought it was a shot at Nas, which it wasn't. He just what's it called mentioned it. He just mentioned. Just want to sample because.
So who took the first shot, like the serious one, like?
It's difficult to
Sublime.
say because you see, if you're taking subliminal shots,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily
Necessarily
knowing who they're talking about, or like it's subliminal. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So even if you ask to say was that about a particular person, you can deny it because
Yeah.
it can sometimes be general in everyone, and sometimes only the other person knows that
Yeah.
you're talking about him, or you know that you're talking about him. Biggie was brilliant at it. He
Right.
did it with everybody.
Yeah.
You only found out sometimes after he died that certain songs were about certain people, like Nas with The Message. Afterwards, he said, okay, these were the records. But like what obviously, there were some, like what the city is mine after Biggie died. That's what he's basically saying.
Yeah.
The city is mine. He's
Yeah.
the king of New York. Like the focal point, like Biggie in
Yeah.
his prime on the logo. Shh, the city is
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was him basically
Yeah.
claiming it straight after
Right,
Big
yeah.
died.
So well, just a tad before that, right? On the song Where I'm From, Jay-Z mentions who's the king of New York? It's Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas, right? And then when Biggie died, that's when City's Mind came, and that's when.
But Nas
the direct-
responded to that line because he on certain records he says people using your name in vain,
Yeah.
claiming they're the king of New York. It ain't about it. And then on another record, on what album was it, where he says who's the greatest rappers? Tupac, Biggie, and Nas. He leaves Jay out of it. And then Jay has a different record where he says who's the greatest rapper? Biggie, Jay-Z, and nah, and then the S never comes. So they were like kind of alluding to each other, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
really going directly at each other. But I think for the most part there was always tension between the two of them, and always shots going back and forth.
Yeah.
So they were both asked many times like how did it start. They give you the same story, the
Yeah.
competitive nature of the art form. There's no direct answer. Now,
Like
one-
what we even said a few weeks ago, like going for the top spot.
basically
Is
that's,
that-
what,
that's
it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That-
Are
Okay. And then came in Bleak.
that
Memphis
now,
Bleak, right?
Now a lot of Bleak himself cites himself as the reason why this started. Some people can say this is why it started, but there was some tension before.
Yeah.
that.
So the reason Bleak got pulled in because again, part of Jay-Z's camp using
Rockefeller.
using Nas's sampling Nas on the Dead Presidents and on the other track again sampling, and on Memphis Bleak's Memphis Bleak's single coming of age album.
It's the first album.
Yeah, on his first album, there's similarities between the song of Nas or Nas's, like there's similarities.
It's Memphis Bleak is, I think that was the second album or the first album, I'm not sure. Basically, the Memphis Bleak thing is like, he's taken claim to starting that beef, right? So I said that, but that's how it started. There's so many different avenues and things you can look at, like the subs, the tension, whatever else. But he's one of the reasons why he says he actually started it.
Yeah.
He had a song called What You Think of That, featuring Jay-Z.
Yes.
And the hook says, I'm a ball till I fall, what you think of that?
Yes. You
For
100%
some
right.
reason, Nas responded to that on Nostradamus.
Yeah.
What the line saying, you want a ball till you fall, I can help you with that. You want beef, I can let the slug melt in your head. Maybe just because Jay was on that record, and he might have said something on his verse on that song, that's why he responded to that directly. And then Bleak responded to that saying, your lifestyle's written, who you supposed to be, play your position, on a song called My Mind's Right.
Yes.
I said your life. So that's basically references Nas' second album. It was written, so you could hear it was a direct response to that. Then Nas responded to him on QB's Finest compilation, saying, "Oh no, you didn't. Whose life was written." And on that same album, he dissed everybody on Rockefeller.
It's actually on the Stallmatic album.
Nah, the Stallmatic came after that. This was on QB's Finest compilation album. He disses everybody on Rockefeller, right? And that's when he responds to the Bleak line, that's when Jay-Z said he's going to take over. No pun intended. He said he's going to take over the beef with Nas. Like, Bleak is basically saying, like, you can't handle the situation, I'm going to take over the situation.
So was that when he dropped the single Takeover?
He performed, no.
It still
Still fresh, yeah.
And then it basically died down for a little while. Nothing happened.
Until Jay-Z performed the freestyle on Hot 97 Summer Jam.
Now, before that, because like I said, it died down for a little while. Then Jay claimed that he heard Nas talking like bad about him on a radio station, on a LA radio station. There's no recording of that. And that time, it's not like now when everything is recorded and easily available on social media or YouTube and whatever. So he claimed that he heard him talking about it, and that's when he decided to go all the way in.
And then my thing with a Hot 97, Jay-Z's freestyle, he had a picture of Nas, similar to the Dr. Dre, easily having a Dr. Dre. He had a picture on while he was performing on the Hot 97, the Summer Jam. Like I said, Jay-Z took jabs at Prodigy from Mobb Deep and Nas, and then he still had pictures in the background of Nas, of Nas, and then that's when.
Before you get into even to the takeover, we were still basically all the reasons why it might have started, right? As it goes in, you hear different situations, but there were stories of like Jay-Z being with Nas's baby mama.
Yeah.
And then it comes out in the future. There's a song called Is That Your Chick? With Memphis Bleak.
Yeah.
That was perceived as a shot at Nas. Basically, like the fact that Jay was with his baby mama, and then there was Nas's QB's Finest project, The Bridge 2001. That's where this is all Rockefeller artists.
Yeah.
As well as all the Rockefeller artists went up to Hot 97 and did a freestyle. Some of them weren't even known at that point in time, and they rapped over all Only Queens artists' beats. So they took that as disrespect as well. Yeah. So I don't know where that falls in within the timeline of this thing in chronological order, but it was done within there somewhere.
Yeah. So when you're talking about his baby mama story, his baby mama story wasn't. It was internally. It wasn't.
He references it on Takeover and then speaks about it on Super Ugly.
Yeah, but
that's why they said Is That Your Chick was a subliminal.
So you see in Takeover he mentions Nas. If Nas comes back, he has something better to come.
He says,
back.
you know who did what, but you know who, but we'll
keep it until you come.
Between us.
If you're going to come, then
I'll tell you the exact line now. It's you know who did what, but you know who, but we'll keep between me and you for now.
For now, yeah. And please, in that he was referencing to say, Nas, don't come back. Otherwise, I'm going to come back with something better.
That's what I'm saying. Is That Your Chick? They thought it was.
But yeah, so but also in the summer jam, the whole summer jam scenario also, right? What I was speaking about. You know, when he performed the freestyle of the takeover, it wasn't the original takeover at that point in time.
It was a
right?
song, but it only had two
Yeah.
verses on it.
Yeah,
at that
it
point.
wasn't the original, but he had a picture of
Prodigy.
a picture of Prodigy. Wasn't that
So he performs a takeover, right?
right?
The first verse, he's basically going at anybody.
Yeah.
There's no one
No,
specific that
just
he's
specific,
attacking
yeah.
on the first verse. He's just
Yeah.
saying anybody that wanted it can come get it.
Mm.
On the second verse, he does his Prodigy.
Yeah.
He puts up the picture of
Picture.
Prodigy
That's
doing
Prodigy. Oh, yeah,
as
that's
a
Prodigy, sorry.
ballerina
Yeah,
with
that's
his
Prodigy,
leg up, but he
sorry.
wasn't wearing
I'm
the
mistaken,
tutu.
yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the second verse, he says, "Ask Nas, you don't want it with Hove." No.
Yeah.
There's no full dust towards
yeah.
him. It's just that one line at the end of the second
And
verse. Then Nas responded with a Stillmatic freestyle at H to the Omo.
H to the
That-
Omo, yeah.
Right, that freestyle he
That freestyle,
responded.
yeah.
That was a Stillmatic freestyle.
Yeah.
Then he came back when he released the song. He put the third verse, which is directly
Takeover.
going at Nas.
Takeover,
And then the fourth verse, which is like a combination of all.
Yeah.
He's taking shots at Nas, at Prodigy, and
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
again. That's why he says at the end, he says,
Yeah.
whoever won it with Hove, you only get half a bar.
Yeah. And
So
then
that's how it
yeah.
came together.
And then on that also there was also one part. I just want you to correct me. Right?
Mhm.
There was one part where Nas was also supposed to perform on the Hot 97, and Nas had
The next year.
the next year, and he had he made it like a dummy,
hangman type thing,
a hangman type thing, and someone stopped him, and he was upset.
They
because-
didn't allow him to do
because,
that.
yeah,
Hot
didn't allow him,
97
yeah.
itself said that he cannot do that. It's taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
So they didn't allow him to do that. That's when he went on a rampage and not only
And
attacked
yeah.
Hot 97, he
Bec-
went
yeah,
at Cam,
because-
Nori.
Yeah, because
Nelly,
No,
everybody.
he mentioned. He said, "Yeah, you guys protect." He basically said, "You guys are protecting Jay-Z."
Mhm.
Yeah, and then from there,
So basically, where we left off with the takeover coming
takeover,
out.
yeah, takeover coming out.
So after that, a lot of people thought it was done for Nas. He
Yeah,
thought he couldn't come back.
Yeah,
The
everybody
general
thought
consensus was like he's
he's
done.
not gonna
it's
come
over.
back because he kept
Um,
it quiet for a while.
Yeah, people that were on the same label with him were even saying they think it's
yeah,
over for him.
Yeah, they
It's-
thought he was they put him as a has-been. They labeled him as it.
Right, and losing that. Remember we
Yeah.
spoke about it last week with the KRS-One battle. This was coming at a time when if you lose a battle, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no response. And it took months and months and months to
Mhm.
respond before Ita actually did come out.
Yeah, and then we came with one of the greatest diss tracks.
I put both
Ever.
of them up there as two of the greatest diss tracks ever.
Yeah, but I would say
Ah.
Ita. I will explain to you why I'm saying Ita is one of the greatest above Takeover, right? Nah? Yeah, but then he came up with Ita, right? Ita's original beat was made by Swiss Beats.
That's a different song.
Was a different song, was very brutal, and then
They told him to change
They
it.
told him they
Oh,
Columbia
I
didn't
think he
want.
changed it as
No,
well
yeah,
because
but
of
yeah.
the Dame Dash plane crash line and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah, he what's it called? And then Steve Stout basically came to him and said, "No, change the beat." That's why he went with a different producer. Besides, I can't remember what the producer's name.
Me neither. Yeah, then, yeah.
It's not in my
Basically,
head.
there was a worse version of Ita, which is difficult to say because that song
Yeah.
is quite disrespectful to start with.
Yeah,
And then he remade the Ita. Actually, the starting of Ita with the FJZ. That's actually it's a Tupac sample. That's Tupac's voice that's
Yeah.
saying that.
and then on the Ita, there was a lot of it was a killer track Ita. With Ita also, this is where the starting of where people said Eminem washed Jay-Z on Renegade.
Yeah, he mentioned
Because
it.
Nas
You had to find
mentioned
a way to bring
yeah.
it in, right?
I had to find a way. I'm sorry.
We were waiting for this.
Eminem murdered you on your own track.
Yeah.
Since you brought up Eminem, like people today call, and if you're a super fan of anybody, they call you a stan, whether it's about Eminem or not. If you're a fan of it, had come from stan, right?
Yeah.
The term getting eaten come from the song.
Yes. No. That's why that's
So
why I
if
was
you
saying,
lose or you get
yeah,
washed,
or
you
eaten.
got eaten. It
Yeah.
come from the
that,
song.
Yeah, that's why that's why I was saying I will mention it at the end. Why I say it's one of the best diss tracks because
The impact.
the impact and to have the song that is that to become part of the culture to say, hey, I eated you on this. This is the origin. That's where it originated from Ita, from Nas, and from this track.
Yeah.
This track.
That's track.
That's
Alright.
this track. Yeah.
So don't confuse yourself. I know you
That's
struggle
the
with
track.
words.
Yeah.
Yeah, well then eventually after Ether did drop, it was over. A lot of people said Nas won that, even though few months before that they were saying it's over, he's done what whatever. They were saying Nas won that, and then Jay came afterwards with somewhat of a
Super
freestyle
Ugly.
called Super Ugly. That's where he goes straight when on takeover, when he says you know who did what, but you know who, he
That is where he comes in.
comes out with it and says it, and people didn't like the record.
Mm-hmm.
On the same radio station, I think, I'm not sure which one it was,
yeah.
97 or Power 105.
It's one of it.
They did basically a head-to-head where they
Yeah.
put up Ether against Super Ugly, and Ether won it. Now a lot of people said it was wrong. Ether should have gone up against Takeover and see who won that. But now I feel like it was fair, because Ether was a full song about Jay, Super Ugly was a full song about Nas.
Nas
Takeover was one verse at Nas and a shot, and then Nas responded with a Stillmatic freestyle.
Yes.
And then Jay put the other verse and he came with Ether. So I feel like Super Ugly going up against Ether made sense, and then Ether won that basically. And Ether obviously has become what it was. And because of the disrespect of that record and the things he said, because of his mother saying he went too far, Jay actually apologizes
Yeah.
to Nas at that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't really over. There were still subliminals thrown afterwards, and then before the Blueprint 2 album came out, he came out with a single, The Blueprint 2. And he takes more shots at Nas. Even though it was perceived to have been over and him apologizing, but they still went back and forth.
Yeah.
So how long did this beef actually last?
A
It
few years.
started
So
in the
It
90s.
started in, basically, you can say subliminally, it started in 96.
Directly, it started 2001.
Directly, I'd say.
2001 Takeover.
Oh, the
Directly.
takeover. Yeah, the takeover was direct.
And then it lasted for a few years,
Yeah.
and then eventually they performed together and ended it. Well, they didn't have any official records together at that point in time, but
At that point
obviously
in
Jay had Nas
Yeah.
on sampled on Dead President, so they performed that.
Yeah,
and
and
ended it.
and okay, post Ether, so as you said, they came so in when when Nas left Colombia, he went to
Signed to Def
he
Jam.
signed to Def Jam. So people thought
Signed
okay,
to Jay.
yeah,
Because
So
technically Jay was the
Jay
president
was
of
the
Def
president
Jam at
then,
that time.
yeah. So people assumed, say okay, no, Jay-Z is working under not Jay-Z, but then they
Did an interview with Sway.
they did an interview, and then on Nas's album on Hip Hop Is Dead, that's their first collab. On that
First official
their
collab,
first
yes.
official collab.
And there was a few that came afterwards. It's not so many. That's why the record with DJ Khaled with the two of them together,
Recently, yeah.
Yeah, it
Sorry,
went so
not sorry,
big
no.
because there's not many with them together. And then on the DMX album, there was one with the two of them as well. So that's why those records blow up the way they do, just based on the fact that those two of them together. Some of them work out well, some of them don't.
Okay, so basically, these were two guys that were beefing for like say about 10 years.
Officially 10,
Yeah.
maybe 5
Yeah.
years, maybe
Oh, it's
5
a-
No,
years.
you can say
More or
But
less.
10 years, yeah.
yeah, you can say more or less 10 because the Hip Hop Is Dead came out in, mistaken, if it was 2000
maybe.
yeah, 2006, and if you count 96 including subliminals, yeah, so
10
it's
years.
roughly about 10.
So it's about 10 years that two guys had beefs with each other, and they were literally writing rhythm and poetry about each other. Why
That's
couldn't they
what
just
people
do
is.
it the old-fashioned way? Two guys have a
Well,
problem with each other.
They have seen each other in that time.
Yeah.
You hear people, different stories about it, like Nori speaks about it and things like that. It was never that for them. It was
Yeah.
hip hop.
and
Was it? Oh.
and also just after the B.I.G. and Tupac beef, this was the biggest after that, and people were
Well,
afraid it was
around the same time you had
around the same people
50
at-
Cent
yeah.
and Ja Rule
no,
and things,
no,
but this was
no,
lyrical.
no,
This wasn't a physical
no,
situation.
I mean in 96, 97, just after when this beef started and it was escalating, people were afraid it was going to end up in a similar way because it was starting to get a bit touchy.
Yeah, that's why Fat Joe speaks about it as well. Fat Joe says he was disappointed when Nas squashed the beef because at that point in time it was getting a little bit it was going into the street. And Fat Joe said he was holding Nas down in the street and he decided to squash the beef without even telling him. So he said he was disappointed. Now they've all resolved it. But this was also at the time when, like we were speaking about it last week and earlier, I said this, where if you lose a battle, you were out, right? You were perceived as dead, you were gone. Look what happened to Cannabis, even though I don't really feel like he lost. MC Shen situation. That time there, if you lost, it was somewhat done for you. This was one of the beefs that the general consensus is that Ether won it. But there are some people out there that feel like Jay won, right? Regardless, it didn't affect neither of them negatively.
Yeah.
Both of them prospered from there. For some reason, Nas came back Like they even before the battle, they were looking like Nas like he fell off. This brought him back. Still, Matic came out the same day as Jay-Z's Unplugged album and he out Soldier. Right, so to a certain extent, on a commercial standpoint, on a sales perspective, on relevance, it somewhat brought him back.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that coin, it gave Jay some sort of credibility because he was looked at as an artist going commercial at that point
Yeah.
in time. People were kind of looking at him as going too commercial, making
Yeah.
radio records and that type of thing. And him getting in the down and dirty in a battle basically gave him some sort of credibility and people to look at him as an MC again. So this is one of the things that it actually helped both of them.
It benefited both of them in
Benefited
the long
both
run.
of
Yeah.
them.
And just on the takeover, right?
Mhm.
The person who produced it was Kanye West, right? It was Kanye
Yeah,
West.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
and that's how.
could be
Yeah, no,
mistaken.
it was Kanye West on takeover. That's where we first got introduced to Kanye
A
West.
Jim Morrison sample.
Yeah, that's when we got first introduced to Kanye West, and later on, like what? Yeah, but anyway,
Now
that's why I'm saying this beef was just as important as the KRS one because it also originated. It also created something of a
Was
legacy.
Kanye West?
Of a legacy, yeah.
I can live without Kanye West. I'm gonna be
I
honest
can live
with
with
you.
Kanye West.
I can live without him. Yeah. But yeah, no, so for the most part, people do believe like Nas won that, right? But there are people that say, okay, no, Jay had a better record. If you take song for song, they feel like he made a better song. But in a battle, they don't really matter.
Yeah.
Impact and the win.
Impact and the win. I say,
So who do you think won the battle?
when
Who would you
you're
give it
talking
to?
about lyrical beef, when you're talking about rapping and everything, I would put Nas's Ita over Takeover.
Yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time answering that question. You all know.
Like I was just waiting for Ari to say because we know he was gonna come with Jay-Z little.
No, I like Jay-Z, but Nas lyrically, I
Okay,
Let's
so
stand
anything
for-
else do you have on the beef?
on the
Steph?
beef. Okay, what I was gonna say is, if you heard last week, there's we spoke about KRS versus MC, and that beef is still going on. This was one of the first beefs. Not out. I stand correction. One of the first beefs where we have two big artists battling it out for a
Top
large
spot.
number of years, and at the end reconciling.
Well, let's be honest. Jay do be doing some sly shit even till now. Every time Nas drops an album or comes out, Jay drops on the same day.
Yeah,
The Nazir album
yeah,
with Kanye, the Carter's album came out on
Yeah.
that same day. The one of Nas's King's Disease, Jay-Z dropped a single that same day.
And-
So he does
yeah.
keep doing little but stuff.
So hence I'm saying people assume that by Nas signing to Def Jam, when Jay-Z was president,
Yeah.
they feel like Nas was taking
The backseat.
Backseat, yeah.
Well,
But anyway,
So they're still
that's
fighting for the
that-
title of the King of New York.
I don't think
I
anymore.
don't think
Who is the King of New York right
now we don't know.
Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Are you really making a joke? Tekashi 6ix9ine, King of New York.
King of
Really?
New York, Tekashi
Do you
6ix9ine.
do you want to get what's it called, shot or something?
Yeah, for saying something like that.
For
you
saying
should.
something like it.
It's Tekashi 6ix9ine, King of New York.
I don't think so. Eh?
The Rainbow Head Boy.
Unfortunately, you can't say that. Yeah.
If this entices anybody to go back and listen to the Dust records, sorry, I don't want to say beef again. I have to keep on trying to stop myself from saying that. The Dust records and things like that. Don't only do that. Go back into each of these guys' discographies and actually listen to the
Listen.
music. It's extraordinary. Hence, why they were able to be in a position to fight for the title of King of New York, because they have had to be a discernible skill there and at a high level.
And you what especially with this beef, you're gonna have to not only go on between Jay-Z and Nas. You're gonna go Nas's album Illmatic.
It's changed the landscape of hip hop completely.
B.I.G.'s Ready to Die.
Mhm.
Then you're gonna go into the Reasonable Doubt. Then you're gonna go into It Was Written, and then going forward like is back and
However
forth,
you
back and
wanna
forth.
do it.
However you wanna do it. But just giving you in chronological order.
Chronological. I
I'm
thought
giving
you a
it in
new one.
chronological order.
So I think that pretty much covers it.
Ari, you have a little bit more on that.
On that, okay. Before we're gonna go back on the dust, because I am gonna go to the dust, right? It's like yeah. So his name is Puzzle. His birth name is Mark Julian Felder. He's also known as Levis.
It's lavish.
Levish.
Lavish.
Okay. So and he's from Houston, Texas, right? Did you know he actually started as he is a rapper, and then from there he became saved. And
Evolved.
yeah.
Yes, okay, a little bit more on his history. He started when he was 13. That was the first time he actually went into studio. And the song that he was rapping to was I Get Around by Tupac. So that was how he got into rapping. So he was more of a artist about, talking about guns, living the lifestyle of trying to make it as a rapper, living a flashy life. So with him also some of his experiences is where he went into selling drugs. At one stage he was a pimp as well, just to make it. But he says it was all about the flashy life. So he would actually go park his car maybe around the club, get into a friend that has like a better car, would borrow jewelry just to portray the image of a rapper. And then he says that's when he like actually met, like when he was a pimp, he met a prostitute which actually gave him money, that liked his music and gave him money to follow like his rapping career. And that's when he changed his life. He actually went to church and converted like into his Christianity. And that's when he started the label God Over Money. That's his label.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So then on the track when we spoke about him dissing Jay-Z, that's Liar. There is other versions. There is other tracks. It's Liar. There's one called what explaining. It's explaining something. Something what explaining. Just
you
let
got
me-
some explaining
You
to
got
do.
some explaining to do, yes.
Yeah,
Where
that's a
he,
diss at
he
Jay-Z.
there's a diss at Jay-Z where he uses the ether beat and he uses the renegade beat. So there's two versions of. You got some explaining to do.
I
There's
just
the
like to
one-
clarify this. This is not a bias show going against Jay-Z.
Yeah, it's not.
We just discussed the beef, and
And it
every
just-
week we focus on a specific artist. This just happens to tie into what we were speaking about.
Yes, we're not dissing Jay-Z at all.
So the song that played earlier, that was a dust record basically, and just coming off that topic, it made sense.
Yes. So basically on the on the track Liar, he mentions Rick Ross as well. So he's going against secular artists in speaking about the life that they love is not
They're lying about their lifestyle. They're
Yeah.
fabricating.
They're
the story.
fabricating.
And anything about Rick Ross, you can see that based on the fact
Yeah.
that he was a correctional officer, but raps like he's the
Yeah.
biggest drug dealer in the world.
Yeah, and he mentions a lot of stuff about Jay-Z, and Buzzle is one artist because he's a very controversial. He does response tracks to certain songs and certain artists. There was one of that Macklemore made of Same Love. He responded to that, and he also responded to who was this? Joyner Lucas on a track called Devil Works. You can Google, you can search, you can listen to Puzzle. Yes, he released a lot of mixtapes. He still He started in 2004. He's still currently active. Yeah,
So to sum up basically what you said, he started off as a secular, commercially sounding, the same content as the rest of the rappers.
Yeah, trying
And
to
then
make it
evolved,
in
as he
a-
evolved as
Yeah.
a person, his music evolved and moved into the subgenre of Christian hip hop.
Christian hip hop, yes. And then that's when he started noticing and picking on and
And
teaching,
covering a certain topic.
covering certain topics, which is also quite brilliant because it gives you further insight.
So if you're a fan of the person and as the artist grow, sometimes you need to grow with them, otherwise you won't enjoy the content of the music and the thing they're putting out. Like if he started off rapping about drug dealing and shooting people and gangsterism and that type of thing, and that's what you're into at that point in time and you're interested, but as the artist grows, their music should grow with them, especially within hip hop because it's a more personal art form. And sometimes people don't necessarily follow you that way because they're not in that space at that point in time.
Yes. So as I said earlier, he does respond. Response tracks, where he takes artist, he takes a song, and he responded. He also responded on a song we're gonna play soon, which is No Church in the Wild, where he responded to Jay-Z and Kanye West again.
Makes sense using the name of that title and that song because on what was their collaboration album? Watch the Throne. They have a song called No Church in the Wild. So it's the same beat as well.
Same beat as well, yeah.
He's done like the song Ari mentions as well. Same
Same
Love.
Love.
He took the same
He
title
took-
track.
Take same title track from
same
Macklemore
beat.
and Ryan Lewis, yeah, and
Now
same beat.
That's a common thing. If you're familiar with mixtapes and jacking for beats and those type of things, that's a common thing to do. Not only with regard to diss tracks, just anybody. If there were popular songs that came out, other artists would take that song and remake it into their own version. Hence the invention of mixtapes.
One further mention who did it successfully was 50 Cent.
Yeah, find a way every week to mention it. He's not the only one. Locks, Dubset, Wayne, everybody did it. But he was the first and only one to put it in song format, yes. Everyone else would take that song and just freestyle over it. He was the first one to put it in song format and recreate the entire song.
Yeah, he recreated and it's basically response tracks.
It's not response track, he was just doing the song of his version.
His version, but he basically was responding to it. Today, what they were saying.
We're back to Ari's favorite part of the week. So we're gonna throw it over to him.
This week in hip hop history.
Shiki, what's your abbreviation?
TWIHHH.
Thank
Not
you.
triple H.
Not Triple H,
HHH.
yeah, not Triple H, not wrestling. This is a hip hop show, eh? Anyway, on this week in hip hop history. June 2002, Nori releases God's Favorite, which is his second album, right?
Wait. Norris' second album.
It's his second.
N.O.R.E. was the first album.
Yeah.
And then, Melvin Flint is after that. Okay, no. Maybe it's the second album.
Yeah. June 2013, Wale releases the album The Gifted. Right? June, that is when it gets interesting, right?
Uh-huh.
We never what you call meant to have the show about Jay-Z and Nas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today.
Reasonable Doubt dropped.
Yeah, Reasonable Doubt dropped in June 1996.
Again, like we said earlier about that album, and Jay-Z not being successful, that was arguably his best album.
Right.
Best album, but only after he started making more commercially sounding music and then blew up, became Jay-Z, people came back to that album and then it basically blew up the way it did. But it's one of my favorite albums from him.
Right. June 2007, Pharoah Monch releases Desire.
Pharoah Monch, yep.
June 2001, Beanie Siegel releases The Reason.
It seems like it's been a Rockefeller episode. Beanie Siegel was one of Jay-Z's flagship artists on Rockefeller, one of the best lyricists, one of the best in the game at that point in time. Till today, he's a beast.
26 June 1970, Irv Gotti was born.
Nobody cares about Irv Gotti. He just recently sold his masters for like 300 million. But again, nobody cares about Irv Gotti.
He's got 300 million.
It's not all his.
June 2002, Nas is a no-show at Summer Jam.
How is this? We didn't plan this to work out this way.
That's why I'm saying. That's why I mentioned earlier. I said we didn't mean to do this. This happened for.
This was not planned. It
This
just
wasn't
came
planned.
out this way. And that was the same Summer Jam we were speaking about earlier where
Yeah.
they said he couldn't do certain things.
Yes.
Based on he was taking it too far. And while he was supposed to be performing, he went on a different radio station to speak about it.
June 2000, Nelly releases Country Grammar.
I was Nelly's
under
first or second?
Yeah, it's first. Country Grammar is his first.
People forget, because not long after Nelly came, 50 was there, and 50 felt like the most dominant force you've ever felt in hip hop at a certain point in time. But Nelly prior to that was also going diamond and things like that. It's just that impact, it didn't feel the same
It
like
didn't feel the
50's,
same.
because 50's felt like
Yeah.
if 5 cars drove past, 4 of them were playing 50 joints. But prior to that, Nelly also did diamond and things like that.
Yeah.
I like the song.
Country Grammar. Yeah, he came out of Country Grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Right in 2000, right? And then with a Nellyville, that's when he.
Yeah.
with
Nelly was
Dilemma.
a super
Yeah.
commercial artist. That's why last week we spoke about KRS-One. KRS-One does Nelly, and it wasn't actually going directly at Nelly. It was basically going at the commercialization of hip hop.
Yes. Okay, I know he's gonna have to say something about this one.
Mariah Carey thing.
No. June 95, Skilo releases I Wish. You know that song? I wish I was a bit.
It was a ball.
Just for me. I was waiting for him to come and tell something against me.
This is Ari's favorite song.
So I just came. I just came.
If you're watching on YouTube, you'll understand why it's his favorite song. If you're listening to the audio, we'll just tell you he's very short.
Yeah, I'm very short. June 2000.
That looks good. You could call her.
June 2000. Lil Kim releases the notorious K.I.M.
KIM. June 2000.
June 2000. Yes.
On that album, she sounds like a female Biggie. Basically, because prior to Big dying, he wrote a lot of Lil Kim's music. Wrote the song structure, wrote the style of rapping. So when he died, whether she learned how to do it on her own, it's she had the format and the style laid down from Biggie. That's why that album sounds like a female version of Big.
June 2006, the Dog Pound releases Kelly is Active.
June 2006. Dog Pound, legendary group. I heard recently Des Dylan just said he's retiring from rap. It's no more fun. Arguably a great West Coast producer.
Yeah. June 1973, Trick was born from Detroit.
Welcome
City.
to Detroit.
Welcome
Trick.
to Detroit City. Yeah. June 2005, Cassidy releases his album I'm a Hustler.
Great
Also title
album.
track, yeah.
Also New York rapper.
For Philadelphia. Great album, great songs in that album. Cassidy used to be a super spitter back then. Like, I'm talking about one of the nicest MCs out there. He had some hits on that album. He tried to battle recently. He shouldn't have done that. But Cassidy was really, at that point in time, Philly, like we were speaking about Beanie Siegel earlier and him being signed to the Rock Nation and State Property and Rockefeller at that time. Those are all Rockefeller artists, State Property, and then you had Cass come in. Kelly the Kid. That time there, besides for New York, you had Philadelphia rappers really going in, like spitting hardcore. And Cassidy was one of them. You might look at him differently because you know the songs, the famous songs.
I'm a Hustler.
No, besides that one, there's other ones.
Can't get no better.
I drink and I two-step.
And drink and two-step.
Yeah, it's very commercially radio-friendly type music. So you might not actually pay attention to the fact that he can really rap.
Right. June 1994, the Brett releases Funkified.
I love that album as well.
Yeah, one of the legendary female MCs.
The first female MC to ever go platinum. She had a biggie feature on that album. She was a Jermaine Dupri artist. Brilliant album.
Yeah. June 1988, Public Enemy releases It Takes a Nation.
Alright, 98. Was it Public Enemy second?
1988, yeah. I can't remember if it's second or third.
Yeah, because NWA was heavily influenced by Public Enemy and so that would have been the second or third because they would have already been out by that point in time.
June 2011, Big Sean releases Finally Famous.
I do feel like in this current generation, if we look at the 2010s, okay, we're already in 2022, so we're in the 2020s. But if you look at the new corp of artists from the 2010s, Big Sean should be one of them. I think he's overlooked.
Okay. Don't say it was explained. June 2001, Jay-Z brings out Michael Jackson on a performance.
That's the same performance where he debuted the Takeover in the Nas, by the way.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things ever for someone to bring out Michael Jackson.
Yeah. A hip-hop artist to bring out Michael Jackson.
Generally, anybody.
June 1993, Poetic Justice soundtrack is released.
That's a movie with Tupac.
With Tupac and Janet Jackson. Yeah.
June 2004, Lloyd Banks releases The Hunger for More.
Brilliant album. And he recently released the second version of it, I think last year or year before last year. Great as well. Lloyd Banks is arguably the best rapper from G-Unit. Well, he is not arguably. July 29, 1969, DJ Pooh was born.
Legendary West Coast DJ. He was involved with Ice Cube's movies and so
Friday, yeah. June 1991, Pete Rock and CL Smooth released their debut album, All Sold Out.
I think we've spoken of them on a
last
few
week,
shows.
last week. Okay.
If you were listening, Shiki.
I wasn't. I just talk. I don't have to hear myself.
You spoke about Pete Rock.
Probably.
June 1988, Big Daddy Kane releases his debut album, Long Live the Kane.
Brilliant album as well. Great MC, pioneering person.
The Alchemist in June 2004, The Alchemist released his solo debut album, The Infantry.
Just to put in perspective,
Isn't
he
part of Dilated Peoples?
Isn't he part of?
Dilated Peoples?
I have no idea. I know he produces a lot for Mobb Deep and Havoc. Even though a lot of people think Hev produces all of Mobb Deep's projects, it's not. He does produce a lot of it, but Alchemist is heavily involved in Mobb Deep's sound, their production and so forth. And he did, I think, one of Havoc's full albums. A great producer as well.
Right.
Recently won was nominated for a Grammy with what's the guy's name? Freddie Gibbs.
Yeah.
For album called Alfredo.
Yeah. Okay, and in June 1993, Notorious B.I.G. releases his debut single, Party and
Bull. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his breakout single what actually got him discovered. Well, he had freestyles and things that came out before that, but it was the breakout one that really blew him up. And, you know, if you've seen the Biggie movie and the Tupac movie and other documentaries about him, like Pac would let him come out and perform that song, and they would simulate a fight on stage and then stop it and go like it was an actual thing.
right.
Can we all just get along?
That's the one,
That's the one.
yes.
Yeah. Jazza released his third solo album, Beneath the Surface, on June 1999.
Chaza or Genius, whatever you call him, was a integral part of and a member of Wu-Tang Clan. Just
Okay.
to put it in perspective for certain people.
D, this one's for you. Puff Daddy, P Diddy, Love released his debut album, No Way Out, in July 1997.
Great album, realistically speaking. I think the album did like 8 million, and he wasn't even a rapper at that point
Mm.
in time.
July 1982, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 releases The Message.
Maybe the first ever, after Sugar Hill Gang, the breakout hit rap
Yeah.
record where they actually using some form of reality and speaking about the
Yeah.
environment and their surroundings and the problem
That's-
facing
yeah.
their neighborhood and that type of thing. Because Sugar Hill Gang before that was maybe a party record, but that was the one where they actually,
Where
where
they actually-
you can say that reality rap, which later got coined as gangster rap, came from a record like that.
July 1st, 1971, Missy Elliott was born.
I don't have to explain Missy Elliott.
Missy
is.
Elliott,
If you don't know who
legendary.
Missy Elliott is, don't listen.
Anyway, that was this past week in hip hop history.
That's this week in hip hop history, not past week. Then you think you talk about stuff that happened last
And
week.
Shiki has to add another letter to his abbreviation.
No, but it's very difficult to remember what I have already. Now you want me to add things to it.
Okay. And I
Any,
think-
anywho, there was a lot happened in this week over the course of
and
history.
it just so happened to be Jay-Z.
In line with what we were doing.
In line with what we're doing. It just so happened. It
Let's
wasn't
hope every
planned.
week works out that way.
It was, yeah, every week it should happen that way.
If we're lucky. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. This is the Turntable on Active FM, where radio has never been better. Please stay tuned for the following weeks, because we're going to be delving deeper into other altercations, beefs, battles, whatever you want to call it. And
Yeah. Like Shiki said, we are the turntable where we keep you turned and get you learned. Or get you turned and keep you learned. Like however you want to look at it.
Yeah, and I'm D-Money. So, you know, we be bringing you the facts, playing you the tracks. And this week we just want to end it off with the scripture from Psalms 59 verse 16. But I will sing of your strength in the morning. I will sing of your love, for you are my fortress, my refuge in times of trouble.